Okay. Good morning and happy Sabbath. Sorry for those on live stream. We had some technical difficulties and had to restart our stream. But we're back, and Lord willing, everything goes smoothly from here on out. For those here, thanks for your patience as well. I've titled today's sermon, An Old Testament Mandate or Scientifically Sound Advice. I know as Adventists we're often made fun of for our dietary practices. I know even before I became an Adventist, just in my journey of studying and research and just experimenting with different diet types, we were already accused of going back to the Old Testament and going into the wilderness. But is it simply an Old Testament mandate, or is there actually some sound biblical advice or scientific advice to it? As we read in Genesis chapter 7, verses 2 and 3 of Noah. Here Noah is told by God which animals to bring into the ark. It reads, "Of every clean beast thou shalt take to thee by sevens the male and his female, and of beasts that are not clean by two the male and his female. Of fowls also of the air by sevens, the male and the female, to keep seed alive upon the face of all the earth." So here, even before the Mosaic covenant, the laws of dietary restrictions that they say were placed upon the Israelites alone, God here is already differentiating between two classes of animals, clean and unclean. And when we get to Leviticus chapter 11, we'll see a list of those animals that are described as clean versus unclean. But the question is, why clean and unclean? What makes them unclean? Or what makes them clean? That is the question we need to ask. I know the question of why, when a child is about 3 years old, becomes fairly annoying. Why? 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 But we are called to be as little children, to humble ourselves perhaps, and maybe we should start doing that same thing and asking God, why? 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 And we have His Word where He reveals it to us, the why. And we have the nature that surrounds us. The heavens declare the glory of God, right? We have nature that proves to us. We have scientific evidence that talks to us. We have so many things that show us why. Because we read in the beginning of the creation account in Genesis that everything that He had made was very good. Everything He made was good. So why suddenly in Genesis chapter 7 is this differentiation between something that's good and bad? Dietary? Well, let's dig into that. Because in Genesis chapter 1 and 2, when God creates all these things, He gives unto the animals plants. From the worm to the great beasts of the jungle, the lion and the tiger, plants. Everything was given a plant diet. And then something happened. What was it? Not the flood, because the flood hadn't happened yet. Sin. Sin happened. So there was something that deteriorated in not just humanity, but in all of nature. The nature of the animals changed as well. Animals that used to just eat grass, like the lion, now starts eating its own kind. So when it comes to the Genesis chapter 7, where Noah is told what animals to bring into the ark, there's already this differentiation between clean and unclean. In Noah in Genesis chapter 8, verse 20, he offers to God only of the clean animals which he brought with. So why 7 and only 2? Well, partially because he needed some to sacrifice, but also The clean beasts are not carnivorous. They don't kill the clean don't kill each other to eat. The unclean kill the clean. So you need to have a greater variety of the clean animals to substitute the diet of the unclean as well. And now when we get to the New Testament, there's often this argument that this differentiation that God made in Genesis and then later on in Exodus and Leviticus, that differentiation went away. Let's go to Leviticus chapter 11. Let's take a little look at the animals that God said were clean and unclean. Beginning in chapter 11, verse 1, "And the Lord spake unto Moses and to Aaron, saying unto them, Speak unto the children of Israel, saying, These are the beasts which ye shall eat among all the beasts that are on the earth. Whatsoever parteth the hoof, and is cloven-footed, and cheweth the cud among the beasts, that shall ye eat." So that's all the rudiments. You have cattle, you have oxen, you have the deer, the moose, the elk, the antelopes of the world. Those are all rudiments. Those are all the ones that have split hoof, chew the cud. In other words, they have multiple chambers in their intestinal system where they first chew it once, it goes in there, and it starts to break down, and they regurgitate it back, re-chew it, and this process repeats itself multiple times until finally it's fully digested. And in this process of redigestion, there's a bacterial growth that substitutes certain minerals that are lost in the plants, certain enzymes and stuff that are produced. And this allows the animal to have a complete whole diet, not needing anything else to substitute it. Nevertheless, in verse 4, "These shall ye not eat of them that chew the cud, of them that divide the hoof, as the camel, because he cheweth the cud, but divideth not the hoof. He is unclean unto you." Who would like to eat a camel? As Adventists, we say, no, that's not good for us. We won't touch it. But in certain cultures, they eat it. But when you look at the physiology of a camel, it lives, and its climate that it lives in a very dry climate where there's not a lot of water. So what does it do to stay cool and to stay hydrated? It retains its water. Rather than urinating, it holds all that water inside itself, stores it in a big hump on its back. And what happens to a human when you don't go regularly? The toxic load of your system, you can get bladder infections, you can get all these different things. So their physiology is a little different, but the toxic load of the animal builds. So when you slice off that camel's hump and make some stew out of it, what are you really eating? The toxins. All the urea and everything that's stored in the animal, stored in that big large lump of fat on the back there, it's full of uric acid. Is that really healthy to eat? No. So that's a scientific evidence to show why this animal is unclean. Even though it chews the cud, it has the same digestion process of a cow, but there's something different. So God makes this differentiation between these animals and says, that's unclean. And when you look at the science behind it, you say, amen. In verse 5, "And the coney, because he cheweth the cud, but divideth not the hoof, he is unclean. And the hare, because he cheweth the cud, but divideth not the hoof, he is unclean unto you." So this is the rabbits and the little varmints. It says he that chew the cud. Is that scientifically accurate? Do they have multiple chambers in their stomach where they regurgitate it and re-chew it and swallow it? That they don't have, but what do they have? What's that? Did you know that of a lot of these animals, in Leviticus chapter 11, they're what's called coprophags. In other words, they practice something that's called coprophagia. I'll describe it to you. Once I describe it, you know what it means. They eat it. They have two stages of excrement. The first is a more of a liquidy stage, which they re-eat. The second is a pebble stage, which is the final process of the digestion. So when you look at in the anatomy, the cows have, before their final stomach, they have first a couple of compartments, and then the final stomach before it's fully digested and leaves the body. These animals have their main stomach, followed by, almost at the end of the digestive tract, a large chamber where this digestion takes place, and then it's passed out and then re-eaten, and then that completes their digestion cycle. Eek! Can you perhaps see why God would say, don't eat this? Can you imagine the toxic load of re-eating your own excrement that would cause to the body? Ugh. But the cute, fluffy little rabbit, isn't it? Even horses. Horses are the same as a rabbit. They will re-eat their excrement. I've seen it. I've seen it. A lot of our tower sites where I work at, some of them have horses, and then particularly when their diet is more lacking, the more of a full nutritional food that you give to these animals, the less likely they are to do that. But in the nature, particularly when I've seen it with horses, particularly in the wintertime, when their diet's not quite as regular, they'll go around to every single patty that they drop or clump that they drop, and they'll eat it up again. You can start to see the science behind why God said, don't eat this. And then we get to verse 7, and the pig, or the swine, though he divide the hoof and be cloven-footed, yet he cheweth not the cud, he is unclean to you. But people love their bacon. They love their bacon. Did you know that the pig, when it comes to disease, is probably the largest cesspool of bacteria and parasites of any animal? It is often described as the crossover animal of disease from animal to human. More diseases have passed from the animal kingdom to the human family through the pig than any other animal. You can start to see that perhaps there's a reason that God said, don't eat that, please. He goes on to verse 8 to say concerning the pig, of their flesh shall ye not eat, and their carcass shall ye not touch, they are unclean to you. So he adds even another layer on the pig that he does not add to the other unclean animals. And when you understand the science and the fact that it is kind of like the building block or the bridge from disease from animals to humans, you kind of see why. Maybe stay away from that. And then in the water, these shall ye eat of all that are in the waters. Whatsoever hath fins and scales, have to have both of those things. Whatsoever hath fins and scales in the waters, in the seas, and in the rivers, them shall ye eat. All that have not fins and scales in the seas and in the rivers, of all that move in the waters, of any living thing which is in the waters, they shall be an abomination unto you. They shall be an even abomination unto you. Ye shall not eat their flesh, but ye shall have their carcasses in abomination. Whatsoever hath no fins nor scales in the waters, that shall be an abomination unto you. So the criteria when it comes to fish or water creatures, it has to have fins and scales. The catfish has fins but no scales. The eel has some fins but no scales. The shark has fins but no scales. The whale, fins, no scales. But when you start to break it down, normal fish, like the walleye, the salmon, fresh and salt water, the process of getting rid of the excess water or the extra salt, in the case of salt water, is their fins. Most of these clean animals, when they breathe the water, salty water, they desalinate by their fins. There's little salt that leaves through their gills. These other animals, like the shark, etc., they don't have that process. So kind of like a camel, they hold in their urea to desalinate. Again, creating a fairly toxic flesh to consume. So just like the camel lump, when you have this delicacy called shark fin soup, if I told you that, hey, someone peed in your bowl of soup, would you eat it? But that shark fin soup is a delicacy and they love it. When you start to break it down like that, the logic starts to reveal itself and you kind of see, yeah, Lord, I can start to see, I understand now why you don't want us to eat that. The catfish and these other fishes, the suckers, etc., the shrimp, the crab, the lobster, these are the cleanup crew of the waters. They go around, they eat all the algae, they eat all the stuff off the bottom. So they're living dumpsters. Are you guys familiar with biomagnification? Farmers especially probably be familiar with that. But biomagnification is when you have multiple steps. You have the plants, the animals that eat the plants, the animals that eat the animals, and the scavengers that eat those. So there's multiple steps. The closer you are to the base, the lower the toxicity levels in the animal. So when you get to the shrimps and the crabs, the scavengers of the ocean, they're at the very top of that biomagnification ladder because they're eating all the compounded waste of all these different creatures. So like when you talk about Alberta for farming or Saskatchewan or Canada or US, people often say, oh, the pesticides, the herbicides, all these things are harmful. I'm not saying they're not, they are. But if you look at the biomagnification of eating the grains after they're harvested, versus eating the animal that ate the grain for its lifetime up till it was harvested, you have a magnification of that toxic load versus if you just ate what the cow ate or whatever animal that it is that you're consuming. And then we get to the birds. In verse 13. And these are they which ye shall have an abomination among the fowls. They shall not be eaten. They are an abomination. The eagle, the ossifrage, and the osprey, and the vulture, and the kite after his kind, every raven after his kind, and the owl, and the nighthawk, and the cuckoo, and the hawk, and the little owl, the cormorant, the great owl, the swan, the pelican, the gear eagle, the stork, the heron, after her kind, the lapwing, and the bat. What do these all have in common? They're carnivores and scavengers. So they either eat fresh kill or they eat roadkill. And then you go on to the ones that you can eat, or another four-footed. The fowls that creep, going upon all four, shall be an abomination to you. What do you think that is? A bird that walks on all four. or I shouldn't say bird, that skews it. Insects, yes. The mantis, etc., the different animals. You think, oh, they have 6 legs, though, right? Insects will have 6 legs. Arthropods have 8. But these insects, if you observe them, they'll walk on 4 and use 2 as hands. The fly, they'll walk on their 4 and they use the 2 to wash their eyes and stuff. So the Bible's actually pretty accurate. They walk on 4. It doesn't say they only have 4. They walk with 4. Again, these creatures are mostly scavengers. Yet these, in verse 21, yet these may ye eat of every flying, creeping thing that goeth upon all 4, which have legs above their feet, to leap withal upon the earth. Even these of them ye may eat, the locust after his kind, the bald locust, the beetle after his kind, the grasshopper after his kind. But all other flying, creeping things which have 4 feet shall be an abomination unto you. So the grasshopper, what does it eat? Greens. They're a nuisance because they destroy your yard and your garden. So maybe jump that food chain and barbecue them up or something. I don't know. They're clean. Never tried it. But they're available as a dietary option, according to Leviticus chapter 11. Yeah, eat your garden, you eat them, yeah. So what's the common thread from the beasts of the field to the creepy crawlies? What's the common thread between all the animals that God created? Clean and unclean, yes, but what is the common thread between their diet that differentiate between the 2 groups? The one eats plants, the one eats meat, correct. So the dog, the cat, and many other creatures, they also practice coprophagy. So you can kind of see that perhaps there is some a scientific basis for God's instruction. So what do we do then when the people come at us? Let's go to Acts chapter 10. Or even Colossians, when it says, let no man judge you in meat or drink. Context, correct. Let no man judge you in meat or drink, Colossians 2:16, or new moons or Sabbath day. People love to throw that one at us. Context is key, you're right. Let me just ask the question, what was the reason, or one of the reasons God said, or one of the promises God made to the people of Israel? That the diseases that are upon the Egyptians and the people around you would not fall upon you. That was one of the promises that God gave to the Israelites if they would follow his statutes. And when you look at the scientific basis for these animals and their diets and the toxic load of this on their systems, etc., and the biomagnification if you eat them, you can start to see why the diseases that the people around the Israelites would have, that they would not have if they hearkened unto the statutes of the Lord. But in Acts chapter 10, this is Peter's vision. He has a vision concerning clean and unclean. We'll start with verse 1. There was a certain man in Caesarea called Cornelius, a centurion of the band called the Italian band, a devout man and one that feared God with all his house, which gave much alms to the people and prayed to God always. So here's a man that's not a Jew, who has faith in God, he believes in God, he's consistently praying and helping the poor. His family believes also. Verse 3, he has a vision, he saw in a vision, evidently, about the 9th hour of the day, an angel of God coming into him and saying unto him, Cornelius. And when he looked on him, he was afraid and said, What is it, Lord? And he said unto him, Thy prayers and thine alms are come up for a memorial before God. And now send men to Joppa, and call for one Simon, whose surname is Peter. He lodgeth with one Simon a tanner, whose house is by the seaside. He shall tell thee what thou oughtest to do. So here's a Roman, or a Caesar, a man from Caesarea, who has faith in God. God gives him a vision and tells him to send people to seek out Simon Peter. And when the angel which spake unto Cornelius was departed, he called 2 of his household servants, and a devout soldier of them that waited on him continually. And when he had declared all these things unto them, he sent them to Joppa. So he sounds his emissaries on their way to Joppa to seek out the apostle Peter. On the morrow, as they went on their journey, and drew nigh unto the city, Peter went up upon the housetop to pray, about the 6th hour. So the day before, around 3 in the afternoon, Cornelius has the vision. The next day around, what does it say here? What hour? 6th hour, so around noon. Peter is on the housetop praying. And he became very hungry and would have eaten, but while they made ready, he fell into a trance. So